Because, the old adage was, I don't know if it's still the adage now, but the quickest way to make enemies, talk about religion and politics.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're talking about both today, so.
I hope we don't make any enemies out there.
Yeah.
We're out there and we're dancing in the love we know.
Aloha and welcome to the Young Catholic Leaders podcast series. And in this podcast, we're going to empower young Catholic professionals by providing guidance, wisdom, insights, and inspiration from experienced mentors across a variety of different fields. Here in this podcast, we explore the intersection of faith and professional life. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about faith. We're going to be talking about public service and the importance of voting. Today, we have a very special guest in Duke Aiona. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Duke Aiona was a former lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii, where he also served as a juror and attorney. So we're super blessed to have you here.
Thank you. I'm humbled to be here, believe me. Yes.
Yeah. What have you been up to now?
Oh my God. A whole bunch of stuff. I'm technically retired, but still doing, I guess I say little odds and ends. I do some real estate development. I work with the DOE in regards to attendance. We have a pilot program called ARC, Attendance Review Council. And of course, 8 grandchildren. So working with them, well, maybe not each and every day, but it seems like at times, But also went back coaching basketball with my granddaughter. And so I'm really loving that.
Over at Our Lady of Good Counsel,
Our Lady of
right?
Good Counsel, right? Exactly.
So all the other Catholic schools better watch out.
No, they got the maniac over there. The guy's yelling all the time. But anyway, I enjoyed it. It's with the girls, so it's a little different.
Oh, yeah. I bet. I don't know if you remember this, but years ago, one of my favorite pieces of advice you gave me, there was a basketball exhibition game between the laity and the religious and the priest.
I think I kind of remember.
It was over at St. Louis.
Okay.
And I remember it was like during halftime or one of the timeouts, and you came up to the huddle and you looked at me and you said, "Hey, you can't be missing wide open layups." So I don't know why that stuck with me.
I don't know if that's advice, but anyway, I should have showed you how to make a layup. But no. Anyway.
No, but and you're post the politic world, you're involved in various ministries, right?
Oh yeah, of course, with the church. And then, well, actually, we kind of toned it down a bit, but the biggest one that I do at Our Lady of Sorrows, and I really kind of stumbled into this one, but I'm so happy I did. It's the food pantry. So we do it once a month, last Saturday of every month, and we do the senior food boxes. And it's just been so rewarding. It's a really, the people I work with, that we volunteer with, are just super. And then of course, the seniors that are coming in for need. It's just a good thing. So that's every, in fact, it's tomorrow. So yeah.
Right. Oh, well, thank you for doing that. So let's go right into public service, sure. Right? Can you just share, how did you get involved?
That's a good question. And now remember, I've been in public service pretty much my whole life. I served as, when I graduated from law school, I clerked for a Judge Wendell Huddy, for about a year. Then I went to the prosecutor's office, and then I went to the city attorney's office. So government work as an attorney. Then after about 8 years or so, I got appointed to the bench. So I was appointed first as a family court judge. I was one of the youngest judges at that time. I was 35 years old. Had never really done anything in family court except juvenile cases. So that really was divine at that point in time. And it's really where I think my relationship with the Lord grew stronger and stronger and stronger. I've said this before, people who've heard me speak before have heard me say this, but my wife has been my spiritual rock. I'm serious about that. But for my wife, I wouldn't be where I am with my faith. And so we really believe that was like kind of a turning point for me. And then I served on the bench, family court and circuit court for about, I'd say about maybe 9 years. And then, for various reasons, I retired. Technically, I did. I retired from the bench at age 43. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go out on my private practice. At that time, ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution, was huge. So mediators was another profession, and that's where I was going to go. And I did. I started doing that for about 2 years. Now, when I left the bench, this is what happened. The Democrats, within 2 weeks of my retirement, gave me a call and said, would you like to go to lunch? And I said, sure. So I went to lunch with the chair of the Democrat Party at that time. And he wanted me to run for office and, of course, to become a Democrat. And I said, well, I'm not going to run for office, not even thinking about it. Forget it, right? And, of course, as far as parties are concerned, I'm neutral right now, okay? 2 weeks later, God's my witness, the Republican chair calls me. And at that time, it was Linda Lingle. So she calls me, takes me to lunch. Same thing, like same answer. No, not interested. Now, if it was based on the lunch and where I went to lunch, the Democrats win, okay? The Democrats win. But anyway, somebody in the Republican Party who I knew kept calling me periodically. How about this office? How about that office? You know, etc. And I'd always give the same answer. No, not interested. Don't call me. I'll call you. Had no intention of running for office, right? I was doing great with the mediation. I was also doing some private practice. Everything was good. Well, one day he comes and he says, how about lieutenant governor? And, you know, of course, I gave the same response. And so I went home, like I always do. I told Viv, hey, guess what? So-and-so calls. She goes, what office? I said, lieutenant governor's. And without hesitation, she told me, you better pray on it. And I looked at her and I said, are you serious? And she says, yeah, I think you better pray on this one. Mm. And so we had just started the prayer of Jabez, Viv and I, at that point in time. If you know the prayer of Jabez, right? Lord, expand my territory.
Yeah, they call it one of the most dangerous prayers to pray.
No, it is. It is. It is. And so the rest is history.
That's crazy.
And that's how I got involved.
Where do you think that moment was that clicked in your brain where you realized God was making this path for you?
It's a process, obviously. It's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of spiritual just inflection and reflection, right? And of course, I had my wife praying with me. And that's dangerous also. You know, seriously. So we prayed for quite some time. And of course, that person kept coming back and, you know, we give them the same response. And I can't remember how long we had been involved, how much we'd been into it, maybe about 3 months or so. And my wife has this spiritual gift, I guess. You know, I'd say, okay, Viv, we got to focus. And so let's focus on this. And does God really want me to be here? And of course, she would open a Bible and go, boom. And there it was. And so she would read it and I go, no, that's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying, right? So it really was at that point in time when she first went to the book, when she went to the Bible and she opened it up and it was right there. And I went, oh my God, this is serious. This is really what he wants me to do. And I didn't want to do it, obviously. Yeah. And I can tell you a whole bunch of stuff after that. Could write a book on it. But anyway, that's how it came to me, how the Spirit came to me.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I noticed on the ballot for this year is that even just looking up on the news, there's so many people running unopposed, right? And I'll maybe just give a word of advice to any of our young people now that's aspiring for a career in public service. Obviously, you were able to have the support of your wife, your family, and of course, leaning on the tuggings of God. But for someone who's in that, back to your 30-some-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, first thing, you said something that caught my attention. You said career.
Yeah.
It's public service. First and foremost, you got to remember that. It's public service. So it's your burning passion and desire to serve the public, to honestly serve the public. But that's really secondary to what God's will is. So it's really you go there first. Remember, when we pray our Fathers, thy will be done. So what's your will? And that's why I go back to how I got involved. And so when people say, you know, you were ordained, in a way I say, yeah, I guess maybe I was ordained. Maybe the Lord just put me in that place. Look, I had never run before. Going from not serving in that capacity in any level, and then running for lieutenant governor and actually getting elected as a Republican in this state. Tell me that's not ordained. But anyway, so going back to your question, Malcolm, which is a very good question, make sure that, you are, it is a will of God. Because a lot of people tell you that. They'll say, yeah, I think God put me here, and but really, no. Did you really discern that? Okay, that's one. Second, remember that it is public service. You are doing a public service, and so a lot of people want to serve in that light, because I can tell you right now, what you think you'll be able to do as a representative, let's just take a House of Representatives. When you get into the actual chamber and the house that you represent, it's not going to be anywhere close to what you read about, what people may have told you, because you have to experience it. And then once you're in there, you definitely need divine intervention to make sure that you fulfill that, that public commitment, that commitment you make to the Lord and to the people of Hawaii to serve. And so I'd say to anyone who's aspiring, absolutely, we need younger people to get involved. And we can talk hours about the reasons why, because there's many reasons why. But really, it's about serving your community, but more importantly, to shape the policies and the values and the character and everything that you just said in your opening statement about why we're here today, right? And that's the reason why. And so I encourage. Anytime I see somebody like, let's say Malcolm, you should consider it. But of course, Malcolm's doing something else right now, right? And so you would go there first anyway, right? You say, Lord, okay, really? You want me to run for office?
Yeah.
And let's just say there was a little itch in there, and you're going, because there's a lot of things that can itch you towards running for office, right? A lot of things. And so you go, really? You're going to go straight to the Lord and say, Lord, is that where I'm at? So a lot of young people do the same thing because you're younger. Older people, they go, well, when I say older, again, you got to kind of define that. What is older? But, people a little more matured who have been in a profession for a while or a career for a while, and now you want to go serve the public, right? Like, I give you an example. There's somebody running right now that I just spoke to yesterday who's a business person, been successful businessman for over 30 years, decided he's going to run. So why at this time? And he gave his reasons why, and there were good reasons why. But remember now, what he's doing is he's putting that business, that career on the side, basically, because this is where his attention has to be.
Yeah.
And he has to, give that time. So it's like with a family. So if you're young and you have two young kids, a wife and whatnot, just remember, you take that step, that's who you're affecting.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the blessing of, the Lord first and foremost, but of your wife also, then you better not run.
For sure.
Right? The people that you love, because you're affecting them tremendously.
Yeah. See, I love that. What you're talking about is in the way that we discern marriage or the way that we discern the religious life or the priesthood, when you're taking that seriously, like this especially is the same because you are a public servant. You are serving the people, right? No, I love that. Yeah. Obviously, leadership is hard. Now, leadership in government, you got double whammy there. So there's definitely times in your tenure serve as a public servant where you've definitely experienced stress. You've had to make hard decisions. How did you lean on your faith to kind of help get you through that?
Oh, that's it. Without it, I would not be where I'm. I was just talking to some people the other day about my tenure as a judge and what was some of the most difficult decisions I had to make. And that's leadership, because you're put in that position. And I'll tell you this, when I became a judge and you get sworn in, I never forget the CJ, Chief Justice, who swears you in. He goes, I got, there's 10 commandments. There's 10 commandments to being a judge. So he rattles them off. Commandment number 10, if you believe in God, pray every day. And when he said that hit me. And I was like, wow. And I got to tell you, when I became a judge, like I said earlier, it was transformational for me. It really was. So likewise in government, when I became lieutenant governor, it would not have happened, and I can tell you stories about how we got elected. But anyway, and I knew that. And so that was first and foremost. So my principles and my values, but more importantly, my characteristics for leadership are all based on what I knew. And I used as Jesus as the model, right? Just using him as the model, right? Being responsible, being courageous, right? Being someone who is not afraid to get out there, and which goes to courage, right? And then expecting the greater good from God. So praying every day. So leadership was based on that when I was in office and also when I was on the bench. Because when I was on the bench, more so, I think, than I was in politics. You know, in politics, I call it politics, and I look at that as like a kind of a dirty word. But anyway, people go, "Oh, you're the politician, right?" And I always kind of like hesitate and ready to say no. I was a judge first, but that's how they that's how they identify you, right? So there's so many things that you can hide behind of in politics. When I say hide behind of, like you really can say the devil made me do it. Here's a classic one is this, right? I firmly believe in this, in this principle or this belief that we have as a faith, but people of Hawaii, the majority of the people of Hawaii want it this way. So, I'm here to serve the people. So that's what I mean by hiding behind the different things. That's just an example.
Yeah.
And you hear it said, yes, I'm up against abortion, but what? But we have a law. Yeah. So, but that's to me that's a very difficult issue to talk about when you're in a representative, right? But leadership is someone who come out and say, this is my position.
Yeah.
And you be as articulate as you can, you be as transparent as you can, and you be as truthful as you can. And nobody can fault you for that. Mm-hmm. And this is why when you run for office, you have to be that, all of that. So people know I'm voting for someone who believes in life.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to apologize for that. I am not in any way saying that your position as someone who believes in choice is evil and whatnot. I'm not saying that, and I'm not going to say that. I respect it. Do I support it? No. Do I believe in it? No. And I make sure you understand that.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about it if you want to talk about it. I'll give you my position and why I'm there. You talk about your position and why you're there. And that's where we end the conversation, right there, right? I agree to disagree with you, and I respect your position. Let's move on. Now the voters can decide who do they want to vote for, right? Based on what my position is.
Could that be why it's so hard to get people more open to public service? Because we've lost the ability as a society to have those conversations.
No, you hit it right in the head. I believe a lot of people don't. We had one of the lowest voter turnouts this past primary election, and a reason for that, and because I ran 2 years ago, and I made it a point this time to really get out there and just ask people who didn't vote why they're not voting, and that's basically one of the reasons why. I can't make a difference. 2, my position is not going to be heard by anybody, right?
Yeah.
And 3, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. It's always going to be the same. And I'm telling you, that's why you got to vote. This is why you have to vote. You want to make a change, you have to vote for it, right? So, yeah, you hit it right on the head, Malcolm. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people won't run too. I mean, they don't want to put their families out there, right? Right? Why should I go from the comfort of where I'm at right now, or maybe not comfort, but where I'm at right now, and step out, and now people are going to ridicule me. They're going to call me names because we see it, right? We see, like you just said, the lack of civility. I like to say we have a broken moral compass out there. We do not have that moral compass that we had just maybe 20, 30 years ago. A little bit more than what we have right now, right? Back then you could agree to disagree, right? We could have a civil discussion on our differences and take it from there. But now it seems like you say, and this goes on both sides now. This is not just one side, it goes both sides. You say something like, let's just take the abortion issue. I got guys bashing me, and then I got guys bashing on the other side. And I don't mean in the sense of where we're talking, like I just said, where I'm giving my point. We're talking like mean, personal, just uncalled for things that you need to say. You just don't need to say it, right?
Really, to me, that's a lazy argument. Yeah. You take the easy way out. You just make someone feel bad, and then you win. Right. But I want to go back to, you mentioned voter turnout, and historically, Hawaii has had pretty bad turnout rates. You mentioned some of it, right? But what nowadays, there's this big push that we got to get the voters out. We got to get the voters out. What do you think is the key to getting people back on track to really having a voice in government?
That's because the factors are so different, right? I mean, when I say factors, the reasons why people don't vote is there's a lot of reasons. But I did mention that one. It's really about hope. It's really about being able to make a difference when I vote. And so I think it's just a matter of just pounding it and pounding it and pounding it in regards to, yes, there is hope out there. There is an opportunity to make a difference, and it's all about your vote. And you have to show them that and give them that just that ray, that's just that glimmer of hope that they can make a difference. Now, easier said than done,
Yeah.
right? But I can tell you one thing: it's not about making voter registration easier. That's not the answer. We've got one of the most, I want to say,
Lax.
lax qualification. You can register the day of. In other words, the last day, November 5th or whatever it was, when you vote November 4th, you can go down to City Hall and register and vote that day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you do it on your driver's license. I mean, so to register to vote is so easy. That's not the problem. They thought that if they had mail-in voting, that would be another solution to our lack of, vote, our apathy in voting. And no, it's just the opposite.
Really?
It's just the opposite. Yeah.
Wow.
The first year that they had it, it was a spike in the turnout. But I'll tell you why. The spike in the turnout was because Donald Trump was running. And people got either excited about it, for him, or against him.
Yeah.
And they came out and they voted. Okay. After that, it went back down to where it's been prior to the all mail-in ballot. So that hasn't helped either. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going, okay, so what can we do then? What can we do? And I go back to what I just told you about. We have to let the people know that there's hope out there. And we don't help ourselves when we have elected representatives being convicted of, bribery and things like that, right?
Yeah.
We don't help it that way. The media has a big part to play in this. And, right now, thank God, mainstream media doesn't have as much influence as it used to have in the past, because that's all it was. We now have things like this.
Yeah.
We have podcasts, we have TikTok, we have whatever. We have all these social media platforms. If they're responsible, they can be very beneficial. If they're not, they can be detrimental also, as you well know, right?
Sure.
Technology, AI cuts both ways.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that we just got to continue. I think one of the ways too is go back to basics in elementary school and have more of a presence in regards to civics and that kind of thing, those kinds of things, right? And make it positive and make it neutral, make it objective. We're not going there as Democrats. We're not going there as Republicans. We're going in there to, how did this country begin? So let me pose this question. I don't want to put you on the spot, Malcolm, but I'll put this out to everybody. What is the form of government that we have here in America? What's our form of government? No, I don't know if you want to take a shot at it.
It's a republic.
A what?
It's a republic.
Okay, but what kind of republic?
I'm going to guess Democratic Republic?
No. Okay. No. You got it right. And a republic meaning basically that we elect representatives, right? To represent the people. But it's a constitutional republic.
Okay. That was my second choice.
Yeah. We are based on our Constitution.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people probably said democracy.
Yeah.
We're a democratic country. No, we're not. A pure democracy, or by definition,
Majority
is
rule.
majority. Yeah. So everything would be by majority. That's not how we do it. So we're a representative government, right? Now, how many of us really know about the Constitution? It only takes about 20 minutes to read the Constitution in its entirety. It's not that difficult. Remember now, the Constitution was created by people like us.
Yeah.
Just Joe Blows.
Actually, young
Farmers,
adults. Mostly young
farmers,
adults.
I mean, nope, not lawyers and doctors and everybody else, but pretty much farmers and businessmen and laborers and, just people salt of the earth, right?
Yeah.
So it should be easy to understand when you read it. And it is. It really is. But we've taken it such that we have just, annihilated it to meaning, this is what it means, blah, blah, blah. But the reason I point this out is because this is what we should be teaching now in our lower grades.
Yeah.
And then they'll have an understanding, a good understanding of what our government is all about and why this country is great. Why are we one of the longest running Democratic Republic, Constitutional Republics out in the world? Well, go find out. Because did we make mistakes a lot? Absolutely. Every country has done that, right? But when it comes down to our basic values and what we stood for and why this country was formed, then I think people will see that the younger people will grow up with it, and they'll now have an interest in it. Whereas right now they don't know. Ask people about how many branches of government you have. Seriously. Then ask them, okay, in the Supreme Court, how many justices do we have?
No.
I mean, just basic kind of stuff like that, right? How many people in the House of Representatives? What layers of government do you have? I mean, and this is all. And why is that important? Because they're making the laws for you.
Yeah.
They're creating the policies for you. Yeah. This is why when people say, why do we have the highest cost of living in the country? Well, some of our policies are the reasons why. We have some policies that put us there. I'm not commenting whether they're bad or good. I'm just saying that's why we have some, why we're where we're at.
Well, and that's the hard part, right? Because I want to say we've turned over a new leaf in terms of getting people to register to vote. But now, and even
I'm not knocking it. No.
And even like people just voting in general, right? It's because of the way that it's set up, right? It's people won't question that it's important to vote, even though they say that, can we really make a difference? Really, if you spend 5 minutes in conversation to show somebody, they'll understand it's important to vote. But being an informed voter, I want to say that's the new battle, right? Because there's so much information out there. Especially to Catholics, right? How would you guide them to be an informed voter while at the same time maintaining that Catholic identity?
Well, first and foremost, you're right. You hit it right on the head in regards to there's so much noise out there.
Yeah.
Right. All you got to do is look at the various news channels that you got, Fox, CNN, whatnot, right? And they all have their slant. Everybody has their slant, right? So you, as somebody just wants to be objective, you go and you listen, you go, oh wow, really? And you turn the channel and you go CNN and you go, oh wow, that's not what they said. It's just the opposite of what you said. Yeah. So there are Catholic. There's a Catholic EWTN. Right here locally, we have Hawaii Family Forum, who is a Catholic lobbyist organization. We have the Catholic Herald. Every year they put a survey out to the candidates that are running, and they ask the value questions for us as Catholics. And inevitably, almost every year when that survey goes out, more than half of the candidates don't answer. And if they don't answer, what does that tell you? That tells you something about that candidate. So those are the kinds of things that I think you, to become informed, should be looking at. Look at those kinds of things. And then there's nothing more significant in regards to being educated and to actually getting involved. So don't look at websites. Websites are designed to influence you, right? Go to a rally or go to a coffee hour if that's a candidate that you're interested in, and engage that candidate personally.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to find out whether or not this person is real or not real. If this is the one I want to vote for or don't want to vote for. And that's at any level. Governors should be out there and you should be able to have access to that. Senators, U.S. senators, state senators, representatives, council people, all of those people should be available for you. And, if they're running for office, why couldn't you just call them and say, hey, I want to ask you a question. And if they don't respond to you, well, that says something about them also, right?
Yeah.
So those are the ways you become informed in regards to voting. And you can say, well, that's too much work. Well, and if you just want to look at websites and whatnot like that, then okay, but think about it. What do you expect from a website?
Right.
What do you expect from somebody's Facebook? What do you expect from somebody's Twitter account? You're going to expect them to say, you know what? I was this kind of person when I was growing up, or this is really what I truly believe in, right?
Yeah.
No, you're not going to get that. You're going to get the 10,000 foot level, right? And it's going to be as generic as it can. And you can't follow up with questions on that. Whereas if you went to a coffee hour or if you went to a rally that they had and you said, I got a question. In fact, I got a couple questions. Can I ask you those questions? And then you take it from there.
But even a step further, right? And if you're the one that's going to these things, that's getting the information, like don't hoard that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to share with
Right,
other people,
exactly.
engage in that discourse.
Exactly. You know, here's I was gonna when you said voting, and I can't tell you how many people call me and say, "Who should I vote for?" I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
give me your ballot then."
Yeah, yeah.
No, but I mean, it's like, but see, this is where I share with them. I say, "Okay, this is just me now. I'm gonna share with you, just like what you said. This is what I know, but just don't take my word for it. Okay, you go out and you follow up on what I said. Confirm it or don't confirm it, right? Confirm or,
Right.
So you're right. You're exactly right. Share what you have with others. And then that gets them kind of excited too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's have a party over here. We'll have a political party over here. A nice one, though. Nice one. We're just going to share information. We're just going to talk about this. Because, the old adage was, I don't know if it's still the adage now, but the quickest way to make enemies, talk about religion and politics.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're talking about both today. So
I hope we don't make any enemies out there.
Yeah.
I hope we don't.
let me just close out this segment with talking about the importance of voting and why we should vote. This is what I hear a lot here in Hawaii, especially when we're talking about the presidential election. The news is already announcing who the next president of the United States is, and we still have voters in line. And if you were to kind of hear that or see that, you would think, okay, so then what the heck am I voting for? Now, granted, that's on the national stage, but that leaks into just the general feelings towards the voting process. What would you say to someone who's in that line where they're you want to give them hope, but they're just so in despair?
Absolutely. No. Please don't think like that, right? And the reason for it is real simple. And you hear it and you go, yeah, well, you know what? Every vote counts. Every vote counts. Every vote matters. And for the presidential election, remember now, your vote counts in regards to our electoral votes and how we cast our electoral. That was a big issue the last election.
Yeah.
But it also counts towards where we stand as a state, which is very important. One of the reasons why, and I think some people might or might not know about the history of the Electoral College, is they wanted to give small states, put them almost on equal footing with the larger states. Because if you just went with popular vote, and this is something that people don't really understand, if you went with popular vote, really there's only about 10 or 12 states that would actually carry an election. All the other states, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, like us and Rhode Island and New Jersey and the small states like that. It wouldn't matter. Those 12 states would dominate. So what would that mean? That would mean this is where, from a national standpoint, where your president-elect is going to spend most of his time. It's not going to be, not that they don't touch Hawaii anyway, because they don't. But at least when you show, that we are coming out in force and voting. Like that last election, like I told you about, when we had the presidential election, that was in 2016, actually. And we had a record number of people turning out. Good or bad for Trump, right? But I think that's the reason why they came out. Because we had more votes cast in that than we had when Ronald Reagan was president.
Oh, wow.
And believe it or not, Ronald Reagan was the only Republican to win here in the state of Hawaii in a presidential election. But listen to this. Trump had more votes than Reagan had in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, it says a lot. But in any event, you need to just show that, that responsibility that you have for that, even knowing that the results are out there. Because one, like I said, the Electoral College, but more importantly, it goes towards the popular vote too, right? It goes towards the total vote count. But it just shows that we're excited. We want to be a part of our civic responsibility and being involved, engaging in it civically.
Yeah.
And it does touch sometimes upon the local races, the state races, and our county races, but it shouldn't. And unfortunately, it does, though. You're right. So how do we break that? I really don't know. I mean, we can't change time, right?
Yeah.
In other words, we can't say, let's go in a different time zone. But here's what's different right now because of the mail-in. So maybe this is a positive on the mail-ins. Very few people now are voting on the day of the election. In other words, when the results come out.
Yeah.
So that really is like a kind of a non-factor right now, but very few. But like I said, we're getting less voters now, even with the mail-ins. So what's the reason, right? I mean, really, why?
Yeah.
And we go back to what we have been talking about earlier. So Yeah, this is why I'm so excited to be here, Malcolm. You're trying to do something about this, and I commend you guys in Epic for doing this.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, it's just, I mean, at the core level, if you want the right to complain, then you do something about it.
You've heard that, right?
Right?
No vote,
So-
no grumble.
Yeah. Well, that's actually it's a popular saying here in Hawaii: "No vote, no grumble," for all of our mainland and around the world listeners.
Right.
But more than just that, it's even relating it back to our faith. You hear "practice what you preach," but this is exactly what it is. Yes, the hope is down. Yes, it's hard to find, am I one voice out of the millions of voters out there? But when you vote, you make that stance and you say, I want to be heard.
Exactly. And we kind of touched upon it, but policies and laws are basically not basically they are created and developed and instituted by your elected representatives.
Yeah.
And so you want to vote people who are like-minded, right? I mean, so you're right. So I hear people complaining, moral compass is broken. Look at the schools. Look at this, blah, blah. Okay, well, are you voting? I always ask them that.
Yeah.
Did you vote?
Yeah.
Most of the guys say yeah. Some go, no. I go, well, then, how do you expect your policies, the beliefs that you have, your principles and the policies that you want to be in government if you're not voting? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's really the essence of it all, right? You want that to align. And that person I was talking about, the businessman, that's why he's running. He's running because he's fed up.
Yeah.
It's not aligning with what he believes in. And, in his district, he didn't see any candidates that lined up that way. So he said, okay, I'm going to run.
Yeah. Why not me, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. If not you, then who?
A lot of great stuff, and I really hope that people listen to it. And even if we change a couple of minds, right? We did our part. I'm sure we'll change a lot more than that. But I want to just wrap up here and let's circle back to speaking to our young Catholics, especially in the professional space, whether or not they want to be in politics, they want to be a public service, but someone who is just they want to tie their faith life to their professional life. And maybe there's conflict there, or maybe they just need to be shown the right way. They're basically in need of direction. How do I live out being a Catholic in wherever I'm at in the world, in society? Why don't you speak to them? What advice would you give them?
Well, first and foremost, you have to understand who your creator is. And I think if you don't really have that grounded in you, as I mentioned earlier, thy will be done. That's where you're headed. His will, not about me. It is not about me. So you got to get over that. You got to get over this thing about it's about me and where. I mean, right? I've heard a lot of people ask me, what am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to be? Or what do I want to do? It's not about you. You have to understand that. When you understand that, I think it'll make it easier for you. If you not understand it, but you have, that has to be within you. That's core. That's the essence of our being. Remember, our goal in life is what? To get to heaven. And how do we get to heaven? Well, we got to have we got to have that core belief in God and His presence, right? And then when you understand that, when it comes to leadership and this conflict that you feel, that sometimes it does come about, right? It comes about. You got to always remember this, that first and foremost, we are all stewards. We are all stewards of whatever we have, whether it's real property, whether it's the car that we have, or the job that we have, or whatever it may be, we're stewards. And the best example I probably can give about that is our Aiona, is about our environment. We are the stewards of God's creation out there. And so when, you hear this conflict a lot of times, right? The people say they're conflicted on, fossil fuel, this, climate change, blah, 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 blah. That's really, to me, that's all noise. That really is all noise. Because the bottom line is if you were a steward and you understood that you were a steward, it wouldn't matter because you would be taking care of the environment because you're God's steward and you have to take care of it. You have to care for it the best way you can. And that means recycling. That means, not throwing your rubbish down on the ground. That means not polluting the water. That means everything that we need to do to make sure that God's creation is taken care of. And so that's an example in regards to just being good stewards. And once you understand you're good stewards, you're going to understand that everything comes from Him. Everything that I have is a blessing. I have to look for God's greater good, and I'll be that much more humble in regards to who I am as a person. But more importantly, it's going to wipe away any conflict that I may have. Any conflict I may have in regards to my principles, to my values, and what the world wants and what He wants will be wiped away. Because I understand, I'm just a steward here.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of it for Him. Your children, you're God's steward for that. You're the dad. So we don't call it a steward, we call you dad.
Yeah.
Your wife, your marriage, we call you husband. You're an employee, or you're even the CEO. God gave me, this is a steward. I'm the steward of this company now. The environment, I'm a steward. I am the CEO. I am responsible for making sure that our grass is green, that nobody's polluting it, that we're not doing anything that will in any way endanger what we got out there. So I think once you understand that, then all this conflict will go aside, and you can honestly step forward and say, when they say, well wait a minute now, there's a conflict over. You go, no, there's no conflict. This is what I believe in, not what I believe in, but this is what I have to do as a steward of this land, or as the employee, or whatever it is, as a dad and whatnot, right? Because sometimes as a dad, you got to make that tough choice, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you got to go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's really kind of a, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is because God willed me to be here. This is God's will for me to be here. You wouldn't have children if God didn't want. Believe me,
Sure.
I know a lot of people that don't have children who wanted children.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe that wasn't God's will. And once they understood that, right? Once they could really receive that and accept that, oh, life is so much better, right? Right? So life is now you're not. It's like forgiving, right?
Yeah.
You're forgiving people. Because if you don't forgive somebody, what are you? You're basically a bitter person. Every 10 seconds, you know what that guy did to me?
Yep.
Or every year on the anniversary, you know what that guy did to me?
Oh.
Now, you can, you take it to the extremes. And I think one of the examples is somebody just recently, I think they were, their children got murdered or got hurt real bad. And they came out publicly and said, we forgive. Us. That's difficult.
Yeah.
But they did it for their sake, really. But more importantly, I think for the soul of their loved one that got killed.
Yeah. And that's spiritual strength.
Very-
I don't know of any sane human being that'd be able to do that easily.
And mean it.
Yeah.
And mean it. Right? You can just say, I forgive you, but
Yeah.
you don't mean it, right? But yeah, to really mean it. And live it.
But again, there's that reliance, right?
Yeah.
If you're a steward, you know that God's the master. He's the owner. He's the creator.
Exactly.
And it almost eases the burden off of you, right? Like if I could imagine, as lieutenant governor or even as a judge, you have all these heavy decisions that you make, all this pressure. There's no way that you could just go to bed and then be at ease with the mountain of things. You have to put that and trust it to someone greater.
You hit it right in
Yeah.
the head, Malcolm. I tell you, I'll give you one example of on the bench making a decision. So now we're sentencing people to life imprisonment, sometimes without the possibility of parole. As a family court judge, I'm terminating parental rights. I'm terminating your parental right. You'll never be the parent to that child again. As governor, lieutenant governor, a law comes down regarding, basically abortion or marriage or whatever it is. And there's a conflict with maybe what I believe in and what, the person that's going to sign that bill or support that bill, and I got to go and I got to talk to them, right? And so you're right, it just weighs heavily on you. And if you don't have that grounding, you're right, it's very difficult to sleep. Believe me, I had many, many nights in which prior to sentencing, what am I going to do? And, one example I won't give the specifics, but the Lord just spoke it. So I'm doing the sentence and I really don't know what I'm going to give this person. And it just comes out. It just comes out. So that's my faith. Likewise, when I was lieutenant governor, there's a couple of things that there was a conflict between myself and the governor, and I've got to go in there and I gotta say what I gotta say, and no fear, articulated it well, and guess what? She saw it my way. So it's you hit her on the head like you said. So yeah, it's all about that. And that's what leadership's all about. And that's why you shouldn't feel like there's a conflict. That's why I say you got to be grounded. You got to have that core in you. You have to have it in you, that core spiritual grounding that you need.
Yeah.
Right. And we as Catholics, we get it every day. It's called the Eucharist.
Yeah.
Every day.
Amen.
We get it. We get to have the Lord in us, right? Every day. We're faithful people in that. And that's what separates us from other Christian denominations. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what we have. That's what we have as Catholics. So, and I can tell you right now, a lot of other denominations are now Catholics because of that, and only because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. We got some priests out there who give the worst homilies out. And we got some Protestant brothers out there who they're dynamic, man. They're like, whoa. But that's not what hits you, man. What hits you is that, to me,
it's Christ
the sacraments
himself
that we have, and more importantly, the Eucharist. So anyway, that's what I have to say in regards to that.
That's beautiful. What a great way to wrap it up, right? Just bringing it all back to Christ in the terms of the Eucharist. That's how you know this is a Catholic podcast. But I mean, Duke, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this episode. A lot of great nuggets, and hopefully people use it and turn it into action this election season.
I hope so.
Where can they find you if they want to?
Simple. You can just email me. I'm DukeAiona at gmail.com. Simple. And if I can help in any way, I definitely will help.
Yeah. But again, thank you again for what you do for our state, what you do for our church here, especially in Hawaii, and for the service you're providing to all of our young Catholics with this podcast.
I want to say one thing before I close, because
Go for it.
I failed to mention this ministry. So we do have a ministry at OLS as well as ROL and St. Elizabeth. And we just started a men's fellowship ministry for the entire state. And men, this is my messages to our men. Men, we have to step up. I think it was John Paul who said, as the family goes, so goes the world. But as the family goes is how the man goes. And we have shirked our responsibility far too much. Remember now, we have two models in front of us as men, Adam and Jesus. Who do you think is the model that we want to be? Yeah, exactly. So we have to step up. Be a part of any men's group. Epic Ministry is a big part for you young people. You don't feel comfortable coming with us old farts, then go with Epic. But you got to get involved because the bottom line is you got to feed yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't feed yourself. Look, going to church is great, right? Obviously, but to me, it's a checkoff. It's an obligation that we have to do. And it's not just about meeting those obligations. It's about doing more with your faith and growing with it. So this is why I think, ministries like Epic and what we're doing with men are so important for our Catholic faith and how we need to grow it. So I'm sorry I got on my soapbox a little bit on that one, but
you're right.
But I thought I wanted to say that.
Community is important.
Yeah.
But why don't can you close us out?
Sure. So let's remember we're in the presence of the Lord in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we just give you thanks and praise for every blessing that we have in our life. I give you thanks and I give you praise for Epic Ministry and what it is doing. I give you thanks and praise for all the people who are out there today who are part of this podcast and who will hopefully take something away from you and what your Spirit has put upon us to either speak or to show or to in some way influence those who are out there. And we just ask that your Spirit just continue to be with everyone. Let them grow, and especially during this election season, Lord. Open their minds, open their hearts, open them to the candidates that they need to support and the reasons why they need to support them. And of course, the policies and the values and the laws and the platforms that they have that are in line with you, Lord, that align with our Catholic faith and what we believe in and how we live our lives. So we pray this all in your mighty name, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you like today's episode, please give us a like, comment, subscribe, interact with us. Let us know that you like these types of episodes, you like the mentorship, so we can keep providing this for all of our young Catholic professionals in Hawaii and beyond. God bless.